well. Now getting off the freeway
At
on
Lakewood.
to Lakewood, and then this is Lakewood 19. It does look like, I'm wondering if that dark SUV behind might be law enforcement. Not positive, but you do see now southbound on Lakewood here, getting right up behind people. And that's the thing about these chases. They're going fast enough that they really close that gap between somebody in front of them that could startle a driver just who is on a regular commute.
Right. And he is driving into the airport area near Long Beach Airport. That could pose a problem for our helicopter, but maybe not. We're not hearing any word at this time. But he is not speeding at super high rates, but he is definitely driving erratically. Now he's stopped.
Well, that's some of the most dangerous driving that I've seen. Almost hit the van, goes across 2 or 3 lanes of traffic, and then now is in this left turn lane, and we're waiting to see what he's doing. And it looks as if he's giving himself room to make moves. But look at that move. Yeah. So he goes with the left turn lane, goes all the way and starts heading the other direction now, crossing in front of people who had the arrow on their drive.
Yeah, and hard to tell from this vantage point if he is alone, if the driver is in fact a man or a woman. I don't think that we've gotten that information yet. But yeah, it does appear like he or she might be alone in the vehicle. Does it look like the passenger side windshield is down to you, Philip? No.
You know, I'm not sure, but you know, and again, you're bringing up a good point. We don't know who's in the car, but we do know that they were wanted by Alhambra PD for a criminal threat, which leads you to believe that they're going to have to approach this with a very risky thing. Now here's another turn, and that person is now switched over. So you had one person sliding into the middle lane, and then the suspect vehicle was trying to get in that same lane. So you nearly had a side swipe of those 2 vehicles. But as you look at the car, it doesn't look like they hit. But over the last 5 minutes or so, we've seen this vehicle nearly hit a couple of vehicles. And especially once this person got off of the freeway, their driving has become much more dangerous with several near misses. Now you're seeing the sheriff helicopter above. We have not seen the vehicle's CHP on the ground, but we have seen above.
And now
we hear in oncoming traffic.
Yes, against oncoming traffic.
Oh.
Look at that. That was a close situation, too. And this really, these pursuits really puts everyone on the road in danger and at risk for harm. This is, it's alarming every time we see it, And there are people on the road. We're seeing a lot of cars this morning.
Well, this person seems to be just hunting the spot that has no congestion, because that turn right there was a right turn and then into an intersection against the light. So that person that crossed through that intersection had no reason to believe this person would be pulling in front of them, and that's what ended up happening, and it was a near broadside. So center divider, wrong way. This is on Redondo. Now we're going back onto the freeway. So now we're going to be, it looks like going northbound at Cherry Avenue. But the person, again, if you say you'd rather them be somewhere, they have seemed to be more responsible on the freeway than when they get off the freeway, driving into oncoming traffic, turning against the light, and actually turning right when everybody else had the left arrow. So there were a couple of spots there where there was near collisions.
And again, this person is wanted for a criminal threat in Linwood.
Alhambra.
Alhambra. The pursuit started in Linwood. That's what I have jotted down here. Yes, in Alhambra. We don't know the details of that situation. It could have been a domestic violence situation, but we're not sure at this point. Still gathering some information. But right now, you're looking at live pictures from Air 7, a CHP pursuit underway. This is a northbound 405 freeway. He was on the 710 freeway, got off. Got on the 91, back on the 710. He was on the 405 in the opposite direction, heading southbound just a little bit ago, and now he's on northbound, although they just changed the graphics, so maybe this is southbound.
Well, we can find out on that.
Yes.
It could be that the helicopter just moved across, and so maybe our mapping got us a little better.
It keeps changing.
But it could be We are
it is
northbound.
It is
And I was going to say, generally, that's kind of what happens. There's the 405 north sign. They'll drive in a certain place, and then they'll realize, well, I don't know where I'm going, and quite literally will turn around and go back to where they're more familiar. So this person is now headed northbound on the 405, and again, the map changed a little bit there, where it's based off of where the helicopter is at some point. But now you've got crossing over into the carpool lane, and a little bit of a wobble there. Speeds reaching upwards of 90 miles an hour, and again, those are possible because of the limited number of people that we have. Scott Reif is in Air 7, and he has been following that. So we now have 2 helicopters over this. It'll help us when it comes to fuel. But Scott, we've seen this person make some really aggressive, dangerous moves off the freeway, and now we're seeing some of those on the freeway.
Yeah, definitely driving erratically. I mean, we just picked this up now on the 405 northbound, just about ready to cross the 710. So we're leaving the Long Beach area. We're traveling up into Carson. We do see the vehicle swerving in and out of lanes. I know you saw him in some close calls down off Lakewood Boulevard, headed towards Seal Beach. As you mentioned earlier, wanted for a criminal threat out of Alhambra. We believe it started in that area. We first picked it up on the 5 freeway around Florence, and then it was on the 710 southbound at high rates of speeds up to at least at 80 miles an hour, maybe 100 at one point in time. At this point in time, the speeds are much lower than that, but you can see the suspects here sort of swerving in and out of traffic for no reason. There's no vehicle in front of them that they have to get around at that point in time, and they're in tracking mode right now. They have a sheriff's helicopter overhead, but we don't see any patrol cars behind the vehicle. It's very difficult to tell. We'll push in right here as much as we can, Marcel, and give ourselves a little bit of an idea. But when a vehicle has the windows blacked out like that, it's extremely difficult to tell how many people may be on board. We don't know if it's a man or a woman. We do understand there's front end damage. It looks a little bit like that on the left front. It was described to us as major front end damage, so maybe we get a little further ahead of it, we'll be able to see that. It's unclear if that happened during the pursuit, maybe in the Alhambra area, or if the vehicle had that before they actually picked it up. So a lot of unknowns at this point in time. One person, the driver, maybe more inside the vehicle, and then once again, erratic driving and starting to speed up here. We're on the 405 northbound. We're coming up past Wilmington. We're headed up into the Carson area.
Scott, can you see what traffic looks like that far ahead? I mean, once you start getting up, further up, you might start to see a little more congestion, but right now it's just wide open.
Yeah, I can see up past the 110. It's smooth sailing from there. I think once you get up around the South Bay curve, it always starts to get a little tough around the bend once you make your way up past Crenshaw. I can't see that far out right now, but there's no traffic in front of them right now. The volume is very light, and there's no obstruction for him to continue, or her. We don't know the sex of the individual and the suspect in this case, but there's going to be no flow of traffic. There's no issue as far as that's concerned. We're just coming up, if you're familiar with this area, where the Porsche has a racetrack, where the Blimport is, on the 405 northbound, about a half mile south of the 110 freeway. Started doubling back a bit, was on the 710 south. Yeah, there you go, all of a sudden. And look at the acceleration. Pretty much indecisive, driving erratically. It doesn't appear the individual really has any rhyme or reason as to where they're going and what they're doing at this point in time. Close call
so
there.
I know you said that they are monitoring this. They're in tracking mode, so there are no patrol vehicles tailing him at this time. Do you think he's got to be aware of the helicopters above?
Well, there's a patrol car right there, and it looks like they changed their stance. That's a CHP vehicle. Now, we can't bring up our real-time speed tracker, but speeds were over 100 miles an hour there just a moment. We're having a glitch as far as how we can bring them up to broadcast. And boy, because he sees the patrol car, you can see the demeanor change. You can see how much more aggressive the vehicle gets. More than likely, that individual can see the patrol car behind him, and they just started to drive much more erratically, crossing lanes quicker and getting at higher rates of speed. Now, I believe this transition road is going to take the suspect either to the 110 north or south, depending on how it splits off. The right lane should go to the northbound side, and it looks like this will all come through to the northbound 110. So now we're on the Harbor Freeway northbound, leaving the 405. The patrol car is really getting up right behind them now, and we'll see what time of erratic driving we see out of the suspect. If the suspect continues to drive even faster, they may go into tracking mode once again, but of course they have the helicopter overhead.
Well, Scott, you could actually see the vehicle start to lean side to side when, that rate of speed, you can't be making those sharp turns and not expect. So that's when you really start the wow moment with the way the person was driving. But that, right when that person began to get aggressive, going all the way across 6 lanes of traffic, that's when you saw the re-engagement from CHP. And plus, the person's wanted for a criminal threat. So they're not going to want to just let this person drive.
Yeah, they're going to want to evaluate how the suspect starts, the demeanor, and how they start to drive when they have the patrol car behind him. We did get some information that the suspect was throwing something out of the vehicle. Not certain what that might have been. We're just crossing over the 91 freeway, that flyover ramp, that carpool ramp. You ever travel the 91 onto the 110, and there you'll see the suspect come out from under that overcrossing there. And you see the patrol car is pretty close behind the suspect, and the suspect doesn't appear to be driving at too high a rate of speed. I mean, more than the speed limit, maybe 75, maybe 80, but we're not at that 100-mile-an-hour. SkyTrack, our tracker says 80 miles an hour right now. We're able to just view it real quick. Unfortunately, we can't actually transmit at this point in time. But with a patrol car behind the suspect, and the suspect not driving extremely erratically and endangering people on the freeway, more than likely they'll stay in this mode. If the suspect starts driving 100, 110 and swerves in and out of traffic, more than likely they'll back off with the patrol car, but they do have the air unit overhead. We're on the 110 northbound. We're coming up probably through Carson still, out of Gardena. We'll be headed up into South LA, and about 2 miles from this location is the 105 freeway.
Yeah. And I wonder, this is all just speculation, but because the CHP, we had heard that they were in tracking mode, and then we see this patrol vehicle tailing him, wondering if this vehicle just happened to pass that CHP patrol vehicle, and then he continued to tail him. I would imagine it's hard to get a team of CHP patrol cars to wherever this person is driving. Do you know what I mean? You can't just mobilize them all to one area. They have to drive there. So maybe this was sort of, he was there and is now able to follow him.
Yeah, I think if they have a preference, they'd love to have a patrol car behind the suspect vehicle, because if the suspect takes off on foot, gets off on an off-ramp real quick, they can have, have resources right behind in order to take that suspect into custody. That's what they'd like to do, and like to do it without incident. They also don't want to pursue after a suspect if they start driving extremely erratically with the patrol car right behind them. We're seeing a higher rate of speed now. It seems to me we were at 80 a moment ago. We're probably closer to 90, and you could the vehicle is starting to speed up. It looks like we have speed track up. So we're at 87, real-time speed tracking, and you could tell the suspect is driving pretty fast, but not swerving in and out of traffic. So I believe that if the suspect continues to drive like this, they'll leave the patrol car behind him. Now there's a second patrol car. Both of them are CHP, and then we have an LA County Sheriff's helicopter overhead following as well. But they would more than likely prefer to have the units behind the suspect. As long as they feel like the suspect isn't really endangering the public, then that's when they'll back off.
In this circumstance, Scott, he's going to have to make, or she, we still don't know the suspect gender, but this person is going to have to make some decisions fairly quickly, because as this person starts to enter the downtown area, they're in that carpool lane, and then they may have to get on the 10. I mean, so they're going to end up in some congestion just due to where they are now. And if you look at it, they're still, look at this move. Just finding openings, just continuing to try to find openings regardless of what's the proper way to get there.
I'll get it to them. Hold on. Yeah, no doubt they want a fuel update. It's probably about 20 minutes at max. There's no doubt that the vehicle is going to run into some congestion northbound on the 110, up around the Santa Monica Freeway into downtown. I can't see that far. I'm just assuming that's the case because it's almost always the case. There are 2 patrol cars behind them. I believe we're coming up on Manchester right now. Speeds up above 80 miles an hour, probably close to 90, and there really are no delays here in that fast track. That's a fast track lane on the far left, but here we go. It looks like the suspect is, right in front of that
because
semi.
See, that's where he would have had to stay in the carpool lane, right?
Something just came out of the car, or did you see that fall on the freeway there?
It was the
Marcel
dividers.
has a bigger monitor than me. Did you see that, Marcel?
Could have been the reflectors.
He thinks it's a piece of the car falling off. No, you still have a ways to go before you're forced to stay on the carpool lane. I'm not sure why the suspect made that turn. But you're right, up around Slauson, you get onto an area that's elevated, and then you're forced to stay in the carpool lane, but we're still 1.5 miles, 2 miles south of that. So it was interesting to see the suspect make that turn and really for no reason. Now, there are 2 patrol cars behind, but they've backed off. So, you know, there's a supervisor watching this, and they're really trying to figure out the best way to follow this suspect, to get them into custody without incident, without forcing this individual to drive more erratically. You could barely, he or she, the suspect, can barely see the patrol cars, but you can tell once we get into a little more traffic, and we're going to get a lot more here when we come up into downtown, the suspect's driving awfully erratically, and at those types of speeds, you know, one quick move and the vehicle will overturn, and then you always hope that no innocent person out here gets hurt, because we've seen that so many times.
There's another move. You actually saw them using the double lines as a lane almost to split between 2 vehicles. And again, it's you don't know when, but they just really continue to make these quick turns at 80, 90 miles an hour in traffic.
Weaving in and out of lanes around cars. And you brought up a good point. As the closer he gets to downtown LA, it's going to be much more congested, more traffic. He may have to slow down completely to a halt sometimes. It depends on the time of day. 12 noon, there might not be as much as there is earlier in the day, but he's definitely going to have some. Can you see it?
It's coming, Giovanna. Right up here, right up here, not too far ahead of us here, there's going to be a freeway that is stopped. The 110 northbound is virtually going to be, for a moment, almost at a standstill. And that at that point, you could get into that express lane to transition onto the Santa Monica if you wanted to keep going. But if he stays in the right lane, or the suspect stays in the right lane, it looks like, and continues, we'll have some very heavy traffic up ahead, and is going to use using the center divider there, trying to swerve through that gore point. You know, boy, another close call there. You can see very erratic driving. You have to gain some altitude. You're way too close.
He almost accelerates when he reaches problems. You know, she, whichever, will accelerate into these spots, which is what makes it so troubling and dangerous.
Here we go. Well, here's that area I told you about where there's stopped traffic. It's like this for a bit up into downtown. And the patrol cars really have backed off. I see them. They're probably a quarter of a mile behind the vehicle now. I don't think they really want to pursue this vehicle swerving in and out of traffic. I feel that they may believe that it's more dangerous to do that than to just let the helicopter follow. You see the helicopter, the LA County Sheriff's helicopter, and now the suspect has gotten into that left lane, which is going to be a transition lane if he continues to stay in that lane. But now all of a sudden into the center lane, accelerating. This is when it really gets dangerous. These types of speeds around vehicles that aren't moving that fast, one small move from another driver, not seeing that suspect come up to them, and you've got a really bad accident.
Yeah, and now you're on the shoulder, and nobody expects somebody to pass on the shoulder 50 to 60 miles an hour faster than traffic is going.
It's going to be tight.
Here comes another one.
Super tight.
It's going to be tight right here. This is going to be tight. There's really no center divider on this portion of the 110 freeway. You've got no center divider whatsoever. You can't get around. And so you can tell right now the only way to get around is to swerve in and out of traffic. There's no right shoulder. There's no center divider. Now, the 110 will pick up. Traffic will ease up once we get up to the Santa Monica freeway.
I think he's trying to get on the Santa Monica. Yeah, he might be trying to jump onto the 10.
Did he get off there, Marcel?
No, he's on the shoulder right now.
I see him.
He's on the shoulder.
If he stays on the shoulder, the suspect will be forced on to the Santa Monica freeway. There's a stalled vehicle here he's coming up on right now, so that's a tight squeeze. And if the suspect stays in the right lane, they will be forced on.
Curb there.
If he continues left, if he cuts left right now, be able to stay on the 110. But if he stays in the lane, or the suspect stays in the lane right there, then they are forced on either to, there's a collector road. You can go to the Santa Monica freeway east or westbound, and it looks like the suspect is going to be on the Santa Monica freeway west. Yeah.
And again,
the West Santa Monica is a pretty good drive through mid-city, it looks like. Speeds are going to be pretty good for them. This whole stretch here, from what I can tell. And no, there's an off ramp. Did he just get into the off ramp? So there's an off ramp off of that transition road. We're right next to the convention center, right in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. So now the calls are coming out to LAPD officers about where the suspect is. He's on surface streets, or where the suspect is, and getting units in position. If they can get him in position and the suspect stays in one area, they can think about a spike strip. We're westbound on Pico, crossing underneath the Santa Monica freeway now. Did that suspect come out? Okay, there you go. A lot of times we'll see him stop underneath the overcrossings and then make a run for it. I didn't see the vehicle come out, then I figured that was the case. So we're westbound on Pico. There's going to be congestion. Boy, look at that, almost into oncoming traffic.
Now
into
it
that
is.
left lane, into
that's
oncoming
near
traffic.
Crypto.com.
Yeah, we left there, and we're
Okay.
on Pico westbound. We're
Okay.
west of the 110 freeway.
Okay, okay.
And
So that's
boy, right
behind
there,
him.
you just saw him go through a red light. Yeah, extremely dangerous.
Well, plus, again, we wanted to remind everybody, this is an extended broadcast here of Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. This person wanted by Alhambra PD for making criminal threats. Beyond that, we don't really know what the criminal threat was,
said
but
that?
we've seen this vehicle
They believe
drive
that?
into oncoming traffic, like right now, into oncoming traffic, trying to avoid this intersection and keep moving. So waiting on other people to let him go by, or her, and then off they go. So the high rate of speed on these surface streets has been a real problem, Scott, because this person has shown some very aggressive driving on the freeways, as well as the most dangerous, I think, here on the surface streets.
I'm surprised he's stopping at these intersections. This is the second intersection he's stopped, showing some caution on his end, but because we've seen him driving very dangerously on these freeways and other surface streets.
We just got some more information. Now, the Sheriff's Department believes that the suspect may have a weapon. And so that sort of changes everything as well. We knew it was a criminal threat out of Alhambra. Now we
Look at that.
understand they believe that there may be a weapon in the car. The suspect does stop for red lights. It doesn't look like he's willing to just run through a red light and get into an accident. We've seen that before. Now we're making a northbound turn. Might be Vermont. I'm not sure. We'll have to check it on our map and see if this is Vermont northbound. Vermont or Normandy, and we'll find out in just a moment. We'll hear the call. But hold it right here, Felix. It's Vermont north. It's northbound on Vermont. We do not. Oh boy, look at that. That was close.
See, that's what I mean with
we see
the
that kind of thing.
Scott,
Yeah,
that's
we
what
see
I'm
that
talking
kind of
about
thing,
when
and
you.
we wonder if they knew him.
Yeah. Well,
We've seen that before. There's a damage to the
There is
vehicle.
the
You can
damage.
see that.
Yeah, you can see the bumper.
We don't know if that happened during a pursuit or not, but we saw some of the vehicle fall off there earlier.
Yeah, the bumper is pretty loose there.
Well, we saw that happen when he hit those reflectors on the freeway. A lot of that damage was caused there. But this is the problem where he's driving right now, is you have a lot of pedestrian traffic. And whether he knows them or not, or she knows them or not, you have a lot of people walking around, and this person is not even close to obeying rule of law. So people who are pedestrians are not going to be looking in the direction maybe they should be. And then now you have a motorcyclist who's nearly hit by this person. So this is where it's just getting really hairy. And if the person has a weapon, we don't even know if he stops how that's going to play out.
Another right
Yeah,
turn
no
there.
question. No question about that. And now we're getting on these little two-lane streets here as we travel through a portion of Koreatown. That's New Hampshire, but I don't think that, yeah, exactly. That's New Hampshire right there. And, you know, you do get a lot of pedestrian crossings in this area, Philip, so it really does get extremely dangerous when the suspect is desperate like this and driving so erratically. Makes it difficult for us to follow these pursuits sometimes, as you can see also when we get in between these buildings because of the angles and such. But coming up on a red light, and at least the suspect stops, and it looks like that might be Wilshire Boulevard, but continued on New Hampshire. So at least the suspect is stopping in these intersections when it's a red light. That certainly, we've seen that before, and we know how dangerous that can be. But the erratic driving and the fact that somebody may not see the suspect at these speeds, or someone out on the street, makes it just so dangerous. We saw those people that were waving at the suspect when he drove by, and there's no patrol cars behind the suspect. So I was just curious why they would be doing that, if they didn't possibly know he was coming, or if they knew them. But, you know, who knows? We've seen that so many times in the past.
For sure, but we've also, I will call it waving when somebody comes driving up and doesn't see me as a pedestrian, and so it could have been.
Oh, they just.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah, I
just
hear
what?
what you're saying.
It might have been that.
They just got out of the vehicle and ran
Okay.
into the apartment building. So the vehicle pursuit is over, it appears.
It's right in front of that
now
church?
The suspect, we believe so, right in that apartment building, if I'm not mistaken. 425 Berendo is the address they're giving us. So it's going to be the apartment building we believe that the suspect ran into. Come around the corner here, there's a lot of people there. And I don't know, is that the vehicle right there, Marcel? It's back a little ways.
There's no damage to that one, and we had front end damage on the other one. It is a silver car.
Is that it on the top of your screen? That's
There
right,
it is.
right
That's
there.
the one.
Yeah, you can see the damage on the front bumper.
Yeah.
And you guys
And we were
saw
behind
them
the
jump
building,
out?
so No, I did not. We heard it on the radio. We had a building that was obscuring it at the time. And that apartment building right there is the one we believe the suspect ran into. And so that's one of the reasons, you know, if they can, the patrol cars would like to be behind the suspect. When they do get out, they can get on them so much quicker. Now you have the helicopter overhead. They're down low. They're making tight left turns because the observer is on the left side, and they keep them in sight, and they make the radio calls to tell the other patrol cars exactly where the suspect went. Now I'm assuming, since they're down low, they almost always get a good location on the suspect.
And you see that SUV that just pulled out there where the officers are running past? That's probably just an innocent driver, right?
Probably just trying to exit the apartment, but can't because of the vehicle in front of them.
You wonder if the suspect knows this building, because why would they stop in the middle of the street there and run inside?
Yeah, that's anybody's guess. We only know the suspect, it looks like, ran into that apartment building in the middle of your screen. And like I said, the helicopter overheads are making tight left orbits. They really get a good idea whether or not the suspect runs through here and then goes into the backyard and tries to go to another area. But right now it looks like they're concentrating their effort on that apartment building right there. They believe the suspect is inside. We haven't seen him come out. There aren't too many areas to come out. In the back of that building, I can't tell right now if you can even go to the property behind it or if it's walled off. More than likely it's walled off. So they're going to set up a perimeter right now. And as you mentioned, Giovanna, it could be where the suspect lives. It could be they just thought it was a good place to make a run for it. It's impossible to figure it out. We understand they're believing now that he may be in the underground parking structure. So it appears he ran into the underground parking. Whether or not he's able to get from there up to the rest of the units or not is unclear. But you can see all the units that are responding. They'll set up a perimeter and they'll continue to look for him. So Alhambra PD has actually responded. They were probably listening to this the whole time because it sounds like it's their caper wanted for a criminal threat out of Alhambra. Yeah. And more than likely, they'll be able to find the suspect now, but it could take some time.
Well, that's the thing, though, Scott. This is not like a stolen car where they haven't identified the suspect. This started as a very specific criminal threat, and so the likelihood of officers knowing specifically who they're looking for will help them. It's not just trying to find a random person. If there's Alhambra PD there, they'll have suspect description, which they will have passed along to everybody who's looking for him.
Yeah, you would hope. But I just want to point out how dangerous the situation. This has been elevated in my mind. They're now looking for someone who they believe is armed, who's already committed a criminal threat. He's in an underground parking lot that is I'm assuming is dark, and there's probably various cars that this person can hide behind or columns. So this is dangerous for whoever might be living in this building on Berendo, but also for the law enforcement officers who are trying to put an end to this.
Yeah, no question. I would think that they'll make a perimeter. They'll set a perimeter up. They'll make sure he can't get out, and then they'll send in the canine if they believe that he's still in the parking structure, if we believe he's underneath the parking structure there. But in most cases, when you go into a parking structure, you can get out of the parking structure up into the apartment building. There are stairwells in which you can do that. So if they have him trapped inside just the underground parking, then that would be pretty good, because then they would just have to search that area. But you really get concerned when the suspect makes his way out of his or her out of the underground parking up into the units. And then you have a lot of people that, could be threatened, especially if you have a suspect who is armed. They believe there was a gun in the car. We don't know why they said that and what the, how confirmed that has been, but that was a report that came out. But the officers did go down into the underground parking. A lot of times, these underground parkings, the gates are shut. And it looks like that gate is closed as well, but maybe it opened up when the suspect was driving by.
Yeah,
well, we saw a car come out. So there was a car coming out, so the gate might have opened up when the car was coming out. But you make a good point, but about the trying to secure the area. But if you look, Scott, with those people on the sidewalk, again, they haven't been able to secure it yet, because they would probably have all of those people getting away from the building if they were able to completely secure it. So they're still just trying to figure out what they're looking at, if this person is armed, where in the building they are, and kind of start to get all of the bystanders out. But now you've got officers coming out.
And hopefully some of the people who are living in this building, hearing the commotion, wait.
That looks like it's over. This looks like it's over.
Their demeanor tells us that more than likely they have the suspect.
Does it,
you know, their posture there is pretty relaxed, so it wouldn't surprise me if in a moment or two we have the suspect walked out of that underground parking. So we'll see here in a minute. But, you know, an apartment like this, I don't think you can get out. I think you secure the front, and then pretty much these apartment buildings are walled off, and you can't really get in and out any other way than through the front. So I believe that they feel they secured the front. They're going to be good. But the posture of the officers makes me think this is probably over, and they'll be walking the suspect out of that underground parking here in a moment. But, you know, just speculation, but it appears that that may be the case.
I do wonder, again, back to the folks living in this building, not hearing the commotion and the helicopters. Hopefully they know to stay inside, lock their doors, close their windows. Someone who is desperate and possibly armed will do anything.
Well, but you know, one of the things too, and with what Scott was saying, with the demeanor of these officers, it does make you think that there was a real possibility this person got into that garage and then had nowhere to go. Because they were fairly quickly on the scene at that garage. And if the person couldn't get into the building, if there was a door that needed a key or a code, they might have been stuck in that garage. And once the officers, because when the officers went in, Scott, they went in guns drawn, formation. They were very specific. When they came out, they had holstered their weapons and were just walking out, which lends you to believe that they know where the person is and probably caught him or her very quickly.
Yeah, I think that would be my assessment as well. I mean, they certainly had a posture in which they weren't concerned about anything, and they were just talking to the guys and sort of debriefing, if you will. More units aren't responding. We don't see them trying to get around the back of the unit to try and make sure it's secure. So more than likely inside the parking structure, they have the suspect in custody.
So this has been a pursuit coverage. We started on this in the 11 a.m. hour. Scott Reif joined it. We were able to watch it for quite some time during Eyewitness News at 11 a.m. We are just about to wrap this up. We'll wrap it up here in the next couple of minutes, but we wanted to try to find out to be sure for the people who are in that scene there to make sure that they know their community is safe.
Were you hearing any radio calls?
But again, this began in Alhambra. And then it was on any number of freeways. It was on the 405. It was on the 110, the 90, Lakewood. So this person traveled quite a bit, driving incredibly erratically and dangerously, both on the freeway and on surface streets. And you're seeing some of the video there on the right as to the way this person was driving.
Yes, and eventually he ended up on the 110 freeway north into downtown. We saw him exit that freeway right near the 10 freeway, the westbound juncture, and then he was on surface streets and then stopped here in the middle of the street in front of this building on Berendo, this residential building, and we didn't see him, but we got reports that he ran inside the underground parking lot, and then as Philip pointed out, several officers followed him, guns drawn. And we are waiting to see what the outcome is, if they have in fact located him, and if he is in fact he or she under arrest. And
you brought up a great point earlier that many times these pursuits end up in familiar territory. This could have been an apartment complex where this person either lived or knew someone. We do not know, but it is kind of odd to drive all over our freeway system and then end up right in front of this particular place. But again, it began in Alhambra with a criminal threat of some sort. There was the potential this person was armed. We do not know that. We've not seen that. But on the freeway, we saw this person come out of the carpool lane and hit some of the reflectors that were right there in the middle. And that's some of the damage we've seen. But Scott Reif had reported earlier that there was significant damage to the vehicle beforehand. So we don't know if that was caused in the chase or how that happened, but there was some damage to the vehicle. But we saw some of that front end damage happen during the pursuit.
And we also...
Yeah, Philip.
Oh, go ahead.
We just got a little more information.
Great.
We understand now from the radio calls that we're hearing that They believe the suspect is still inside the building. They just backed off, and they're waiting for more units. That's the information, or maybe a canine. So we were a little premature there. It really did look like, though, with their posture, that they came out, and I thought for sure they had at least one person in custody, and they were still looking around the sides because maybe that person said there was only me and there was another person in the vehicle. They couldn't tell how many people were in that vehicle because the windows are blacked out. And so, but we're hearing now that they're still looking, that they still at least one person is outstanding after this pursuit.
All right, Scott, that is interesting information, alarming information.
A little bit surprised, a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, alarming that the suspect has not been located. And I just wonder what the protocol is for law enforcement in this case. How do they communicate with everyone in the building that there is danger for the residents there? You know, children, you know, people who are elderly, perhaps. And so I just wonder what the protocol would be to communicate with those folks. Maybe management has a way of doing that, because if this person is armed, as authorities believe that they are, it could pose a real danger.
Well, we're going to stay on this here on ABC7 for just a couple of more minutes. Scott Reif is going to have to go land for fuel, but we do have another helicopter above this scene, so we'll be able to kind of monitor this here for a few minutes. Just wanted to let you know about that housekeeping effort. We've got about 90 seconds, and Giovanna, I think one of the things that you pointed out, if anybody in that building is watching this, lock your doors. Stay in place. Somebody knocks on your door, wants to get in. You don't open the door for them. You let officers handle this, but it is very true. I mean, that's the added risk here. The officers didn't know what they were facing when they went into that garage, and now there's that doubling down because there are victims, there are people, potential victims in that apartment, that if this person gets into one of those places and it becomes a standoff situation, it's a big difference.
Or a hostage situation. We had the danger of the pursuit, of course, which we've seen over and over again. People, innocent bystanders, pedestrians, drivers can be harmed or killed, and we've seen that happen, and we got past that point, and now we're here in this building on Berendo, where no doubt there are people in their apartments today, and now they are in danger of something worse happening.
We want to let you know that we are going to have the latest on this coming up on Eyewitness News at 3, but we are going to continue our coverage on the web, so you can go to our streaming apps. You can go to abc7.com. So we'll continue to follow this because we want to try to find a way to see if this person gets taken into custody, and we'll bring that to you online and on our streaming ABC7 Los Angeles app. But for now, here on ABC7, we will return to regular program. We'll see you on Eyewitness News at 3 o'clock.
This has been Eyewitness News with breaking news.